Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Happy Friday, Beer Geeks. I hope you've cooled down a little bit. It seems a little bit cooler here in the UK, but I still don't think I've stopped sweating since last weekend.
Well, mate, I mean, in my house yesterday, I think it was about 28 degrees. I've recently invested in a laser thermometer for a video I'm going to make today for the channel. And I was just going around yesterday pinging everything. Yeah, and it was about 27, 28 degrees in my house. So,
what was the hottest thing you found in your house?
Good question. Good question. Oh, you've put me on the spot. Probably me, I think. I was basically melting.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary. If you're not a UK listener, Brits just aren't built for this shit. We don't have air conditioning. We don't have any kind of shotgun housing. I tried to have my lunch outside a couple of days ago and had to bail midway through my meal because I dripped into my meal.
It's extra salty. Nice.
Exactly, yeah. Seasoning.
Yeah.
It's just horrific. I was outside, I was trying to take some shots of shandies, which you might have seen on my Twitter profile for my new seasonal book. And I think I was out there for 5 minutes and got sunburned.
Great.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know how people deal with this.
Well, we've been sort of going. Well, yeah, exactly. I guess that's why maybe our ancestors decided, we'll just stick here on this little island because it's all right. It doesn't get too hot.
It's way cooler here.
There's water. We can drink water. There's and it's quite green and stuff. But mate, I cannot deal with the heat. It's just mullering me. Having to travel this week, we've been sort of around the country, which has been exciting. But a 3.5 hour train journey with a mask on is not a great thing in a heat wave. Not brilliant.
My air conditioning on the train back from Sheffield was, if anything, over efficient.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was loving it for the first hour, and then kind of wishing I brought a jumper for the second. But it was still warm in the mask. But yes, we've been up in Sheffield this week filming our very special super secret project, which comes out in September. So we were up at Abbeydale talking to them about the future and their past. And obviously Sheffield is a great town to go to, which I've been told and I've known for a long time that it's a great beer town. It's obviously it was one of sort of the great real ale heartlands.
Yeah, for sure.
And has been for decades. But I was absolutely blown away by what a cool beer town it was.
Big time, mate. I think the thing is, right, you've got the northern powerhouses up there. You've got your Manchesters, you've got your Leeds, right? Those guys, as people, they're really great at shouting about how good they are. Like, you've only got to look at some of the pop stars that have come out of those towns, and they're like some of the biggest pop stars in the world because they're kind of mouthy. And they think they're great, they know they're great, and they tell everyone they're great. Now, Sheffield, on the other hand, these people are awesome. In general, I thought it was a beautiful town. And I think they might be the sort of more kind of Scandinavian in terms of how they sort of act about themselves in general. So they're not very boastful. they're quite modest people in general, and they don't shout about how or celebrate necessarily how amazing they are and let everyone know.
Is that a Scandinavian trait? I feel like
there's like cultural stuff where it's actually really bad taste to show that you're wealthy or that you've done, you've had success in life. It's really frowned upon. So they're not.
Somebody should tell the gypsy brewers of Scandinavia that they're being very uncouth then, because
Well,
they
yeah.
are the mouthiest of the breweries.
They are pretty mouthy. I think
societal
wide, there's certainly a sort of meekness to the sort of Scandinavians that I quite admire. But yeah, they're not. They don't shout about stuff too much, which I think was the case with Sheffield. Like, I learned so much just going there for a couple of days. Like, it's incredibly hilly, Johnny. I had no idea. Walking around,
the peaks were hilly.
Well, I didn't know Sheffield was hilly. I mean, I guess I knew that the surrounding areas would be hilly, but walking around with maybe 30 kilograms of cameras and clothing on your back in 30 degree
and then
heat.
Abbeydale gave us 6 to 8 beers each.
Oh, dude. It was brutal. But, I mean, the sort of heritage of that town with beer is incredible.
It really was. And I think, while a lot of the brewing has now left Sheffield, it was known for having some of the really big breweries, big manufacturers of real ale and then sort of kegged ale of the Watney Red Barrel age, probably the darkest time in British brewing history. Most of that is now very much gone, but the lasting legacy of the pubs has continued. So it had loads of beautiful pubs and loads of pubs that were actually really engaged with the craft beer movement. So we went to a good couple of pubs, and obviously some that had real historical significance, like the Fat Cat, the brewery tap of Kellam Island. And Kellam Island are famous for, in 2004, they won the great champion beer of Britain at the Great British Beer Festival, using American hops for the first time, which, I think a lot of beer geeks forget that there were breweries playing around with American hops from like 1997 with Dark Star, Kellam Island 2004, Thornbridge 2005, and a lot of that was happening up north, up in Sheffield. So Sheffield sort of almost started that revolution through Thornbridge and through Kellam Island, and it was great to see those spots and see how awesome and understated they were. So next time somebody says, where should I go to discover something new in the craft beer world, I'll be like, Sheffield, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we had some great beer experiences there, didn't we? The bottle shop was beautiful as well, actually. We wanted to kind of film in there, but it didn't quite work out in the end. But
Hop Hideout, yeah, we were hoping to do something, but they're in a really cool. Was it an old co-op?
Yeah, it's an old co-op. What do you call it? Like almost like a Selfridges type
department store,
but a co-op one in this beautiful sort of modernist post-war building that had this incredible sort of spiral staircase in the background of the hop hideout, and it was it's just like an amazing sort of food market, very much in the sort of like street food things that are just popping up, certainly around the UK, but I think worldwide the sort of street food market phenomenon is becoming a real sort of cultural hub where the young folk and the hipsters like to hang out and try different food from around the world and stuff.
Yeah, there was some really good food in there, like burgers and pizzas, obviously, but Korean fried chicken. There was a authentic kind of Chinese place. There was a Turkish. It wasn't Turkish. What was it?
The Leven place. That was like all the kind of flatbreads and everything.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what specific nation that food was, but yeah, some really interesting stuff there. And then you could go to Hop Hideout and get some killer beer. And Jules, who runs that and also runs the Independent Beer Store Day, which was last Saturday, really puts a lot of emphasis on stocking stuff that isn't quite so talked about, so that she separates herself from the other bottle shops of Sheffield, which there are many that are, serving and selling the stuff that you'd expect. Like we saw lots of really cool stuff in there. Lots of female-owned breweries as well. So there was Wildcard and Neptune, and a couple of others that was you just don't really see in bottle shops. And it was really great to go to a bottle shop and not see the same stuff that you'd see in a bottle shop in another town. And lots of opportunities for food matching as a result. So yeah, Sheffield for the win, and Abbeydale for the win. Love visiting them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was great times all around.
Yeah, and I brought home a load of funk. They have the funk dungeon, which is literally a dungeon. We were taken down, although health and safety generally doesn't allow that at the brewery. But we went down into where they've been storing all their barrels, and it is literally a dungeon with a weird Olympic rings on the wall. Felt a bit like
It looked like a horror. It was like a horror movie kind of set. Basically, it was like some post-apocalyptic bunker hideout that a sort of Olympic fanatic might have lived in when the bombs went off. You know, he's an ex swimmer or something, and there's he can't swim in the water anymore because it's radioactive. So he's in his little bunker. And he's just reminiscing through his strange Olympic painting on the wall.
There you go. I knew you'd be able to think it through. Brad.
Yeah. That's definitely what's going on. It smelled really funky, obviously, down there as well, which was always atmospheric and interesting. I love the fact that Jim had to move. What did he move off the top of it? It was like a hidden panel that he opened up in the floor of the factory. Do you remember he moved, was it crates or something that was on top of it?
I don't think the crates were on top of it. I think it was just blocking the way to it.
In my romanticised vision of what happened in the 40-degree heat that it was inside the brewery that day, I thought I remember him almost like in a Scooby-Doo mystery, like pulling up a carpet and then finding a trapdoor and leading us down it. It was like a little bat cave, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. And I haven't had many of the Funk Dungeon beers. I've had a couple, but I've now got some stashed away and in the fridge cooling. So that's going to be my weekend's drinking. There was a Spontaneous Creek and Saison of some description. And all over the brewery, there were like IBCs and barrels of... There was a Pumpkin Saison, more Spontaneous Creek. There was a Saison with... something weed? It might have been pumpkin weed. Is pumpkin weed a thing?
Oh, it was pineapple weed.
Pineapple weed.
Yeah,
that is a thing.
Which I was like, is that Pineapple Express reference? And we were told it's actually a weed that grows in the UK, and you pick it up and it's you sort of squish it and it does smell very pineapple-y, apparently. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I definitely heard of it, but I didn't. I don't think I'd ever seen it in a beer or eaten. It's probably Stuart Yonder had told me about it, so it rang a vague bell. But yeah, so lots of exciting, funky stuff coming out of them, as well as some great IPAs and obviously really great cask ale. Weirdly, so I've just moved home and I'm now living near one of the directors who has apparently bought an Abbeydale line in a local pub, but we couldn't quite work out which pub it is, so I'm going to go find out, and then I'll have Abbeydale on tap whenever I want it.
Nice.
Video times. Should we talk about the big old video that we've been teasing for weeks during our little hiatus?
Yeah, man. I think it was a really special video, actually. Again, it's like an area that we didn't really know much. Well, I certainly didn't know as much about as I'd like to know about it. And I think through that video, a lot of people have kind of had the similar journey of discovery. And just like the magic that is in malt, and what a crucial process. And
the magic that's in barley, I think, was the thing that I kind of took away, because I knew of pre chatting to Crisp about doing this video. I knew about Planet and Maris Otter, and that was pretty much it. And that's shocking as a beer geek. I could name 100 hop varieties. And I could only name 2 barley varieties because there's just so much focus on the kilning process. So, whether you end up with Pilsner, Pale, Caramel, Crystal Malt, whatever it is, and never actually a lot of talk about the actual grain that's in the field. So that's why we were really keen to actually be in the field, to show it off, to talk to somebody technical like Dr. Dave, and really understand the original product.
Yeah.
So we've done lots in the hop fields, and we just never really considered doing the same with the malt. So yeah, it was a real eye-opening moment.
Yeah, just learning about the history of it, and also obviously that the kind of floor maltings and all that kind of stuff as well, which I knew about, but like it's quite a beautiful, special thing. Feels really of a different era, and it's amazing that they're kind of still practicing that. And you know that there's a demand for it, and that is still a unique product that's sought out, and you know is a kind of real added thing that people making beer who kind of want to celebrate the malt side of things will seek it out. I think it's just awesome, man.
Yeah, I think like so much in cooking and in brewing and distillation and aging and all this stuff, like all the time nature is telling us to slow down.
Yeah.
So, you know, the floor maltings, that process, you know, the main reason it tastes different is because of the extra time that's taken. It's not that it's on a different floor or anything to do with the actual floor of it. You know, the big batches were all done on the floor or like on grates. It's the time that's taken and the slower process and the more maturation time and the fact that it's done at natural temperatures, which means that the more delicate flavors aren't destroyed as part of the process. And nature's always saying, you know, let me do the job and I'll do it better. You just got to wait. And, you know, I mean, we need progress, we need speed, and speed can result in amazing beer still. But it's really nice that Crisp sort of both saw the demand for it and I think fostered some demand for slower grown grain, slower germinated and kiln grain, and then in this particular case using it in a slower lagered beer.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said in the video, like nature has pathways that have very little resistance if you want to take them.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
Obviously, as part, so we talked a lot about Crisp. We went to Lost and Grounded, which was your first trip.
My first trip to Lost and Grounded, certainly, yes. My first trip to Lost and Grounded, without a doubt. Not my first trip to Bristol, but my first opportunity to drink at Source and meet all those lovely folk and see that great space. I mean, what a beautiful tap room and brewery. I thought it was awesome.
I think what we didn't get to talk about there, we talked a lot about the lagers, and last week we talked about the trip to Lost and Grounded as well. But you know, now that we can reveal why we were there and why we were talking about the lagers, it's also worth noting that the beers that we had there, sort of the West Coast IPAs and the Belgian style ales that they're making as well, have all massively improved since they first opened and have got so good. Their wit beer, when we tried that with Alex in one of the breaks between shooting, was just awesome.
Yeah.
And you know, West Coast style brewing is a bit of a rarity in the UK, and they're keeping that up as well, which was a real relief. And their IPL style beer. So Alex used to work at Camden and created what was their best beer, I think, at the time, which was it was originally called Indian Summer, and then IHL it ended up being called. But Running with Scepters, which is their version of that, a little bit lower ABV, is absolutely stunning at the moment. The hop character on it is unbelievable. Really damn juicy. Loads of that kind of juicy fruit, tangy mosaic thing going on. And still as crisp as a lager. So that was really exciting to see that the original Camden beer, which is now called Show Off and a bit watered down, is back if you want to go to Lost and Grounded. And of course, independent. So yeah, I absolutely loved putting that video together. It was a bit of a mission. We had over 200 different video files for me to wade through. I messaged Brad being like, oh my God. And it was about 150 gigabytes of HD and slow-mo footage. But it was worth it, Bradley. It was
totally worth it, man. I think from our Discord forums, there's definitely a demand. People want to see all of the slow-mo footage and from that shoot, and specifically me doing certain things in a field, which we'll talk about shortly, no doubt.
I think you need to talk about it now, surely, because now people are going to be really wondering what you mean by doing things in a field.
Doing things in the field, Johnny, with Johnny. So yeah, Johnny, in this field. Should we go to the comments first? So
we'll let the comments speak for themselves.
Sort of referring to. So we had had a great one from Day Bowen, who said, "The Brad Gladiator walk was a thing of beauty. Hashtag year of the lager." So I got Johnny to video me walking through, recreating the Gladiator scene where Russell Crowe is sort of just, what would you call it? He's sort of like looking very...
He's dreaming. He's dreaming of
he,
seeing his family
past.
again. He's walking home, but the home is in heaven.
Yeah,
at that point, so it's dreamy, and he's running his hands through the fields, and it's sort of that thing about connecting your memories with like physical touching something, and it sets a memory off in his brain. It's all that poetic stuff, and I was like, can I do that, please? I think I couldn't actually quite remember what film it was from when I originally said it. I was like, it's like the guy, he's like walking in the field, and it's got the sort of sort of operatic music playing. I couldn't quite track it down in my memory banks, because Gladiator is not actually a favourite movie of mine. Not one of my favourites, but it's a good film. It's a good film, so I've probably only watched it a couple of times. But yeah, so I really enjoyed... It's strange how that image stuck with you, and seems to have stuck with a lot of people. I didn't think that everyone would get the reference.
Yeah.
Like, I immediately knew what you were talking about, but I didn't know whether everyone else did. And somehow it does seem to have
It's because it's an amazing moment. I think anyone with a heart can kind of connect with. It's such a powerful thing, right? It's like, E.T. touching Elliot's finger or whatever. It's like it's a bit of celluloid gold. It's like, it's cinema at its peak, and it's the most emotive kind of scene. It's a great scene. It's like Mel Gibson, Braveheart, whatever he says when he's running along the line. See, I've already forgotten it, but he's running.
Take
freedom!
Our lives, but you can't take our freedom.
That's it, freedom and all that jazz. And then you see the sword that's like flopping about in the field in slow motion that's been thrown or whatever. I can't remember even. But it's all that good stuff, isn't it, Johnny?
We should have brought a sword, shouldn't we?
Yeah, next time I'll pack a sword in my hand luggage for my National Rail train. I'm sure that'll go really well. Yeah.
Any other comments you enjoyed?
Yeah, so we had one from Ruindu Gunataleki. I hope I've said that right. Sorry if I didn't. They said there's been a push recently by a very niche set of home brewers and some craft brewers down here in Australia to use our main heritage barley variety, Schooner Malt. It's a pretty tasty malt, and thanks to that, it's made a pretty solid resurgence. So I love that it's not just going on here, but it's going on in all these other sort of nations that love and enjoy beer as well. So that kind of brought a little smile to my face, Johnny.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, using these smaller, lesser-known varieties that aren't made by everybody means that we can bring an element of locality back. So, yeah, you probably won't be able to get an English beer made with Schooner Malt, but you can get an Australian one or go to Australia and try that, and it will taste different. And I think that's an important thing, that craft beer's slightly eroded that local difference, that local variation. And that's why we were really keen to talk about these heritage varieties, because it means that lagers will be a little bit more diverse as a result, hopefully, or with Chevalier, porters and West Coast IPAs even you could use Chevalier with, and we can get a little bit more differentiation between the styles rather than all going for the same hops, same malt, same yeasts, and mostly the differences of the flaws that you find within them.
Going back to that question, Johnny, cool. What do you think came first, the Schooner Malt or the Schooner Glass? Because the Schooner is what a beer comes in over there, isn't it? It's like a smaller measure of beer.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'd imagine Schooner would have probably been some kind of tool or vessel that was used, and the glass shape and size was like it, and then the Schooner Malt.
A schooner sounds like a boat to me. I don't know whether it's a boat even, and it's taken on a name of a boat.
You're thinking of a scoop.
A scoop.
That is a boat. A scoop? Sorry, a sloop.
A sloop is a boat. I know a sloop is a boat. I'm wondering if a schooner's a boat.
Not that I know of, but it might be.
Maybe. Well, I'm sure we'll find out if someone...
the internet will know.
Yeah, the internet will know, won't it?
Yeah. I found a fun comment from The Thorn 37. He said, "Will there ever be a year or season of the box? I live in a craft beer desert, so my link to trends is via you guys. But box seem to tick all the boxes, lagered low and slow and displaying plenty of malt." The reason that jumped out at me first is because there is a season for box, and it's spring. Bock is the spring beer. It's a sort of a 6%-ish, slightly dark lager that was brewed in spring. And I think bocks, I need to read my books, I definitely wrote about it, were brewed towards the end of sort of the brewing season, and were designed to be a little bit stronger to sort of last the summer and not get infected. And so, yeah, that's the season of the bock, but I don't think there'll ever be a year of the bock, for the simple reason that A, they're around 6%, and B, they are a little bit darker, and we're still, as a world, against remotely dark beer. I still bump into people that think that dark beer gives you a worse hangover, and you're just like, does toast give you indigestion? What kind of nonsense is this?
I think people also associate like the darker stuff with being heavier and like it's going to be more alcoholic, or it's not going to be as thirst quenching. There's all these sort of associations with it. It's kind of strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure where it's come from and quite how Guinness... Well, maybe it is Guinness because Guinness is so heavy, but that's the nitrogen that's doing that, not the colour of the malts. If you go to Germany and have a Schwarzbier, like they're incredibly crisp and refreshing and as light as the day is long. So yeah, I mean, I'd love for there to be a year of the Bock. There used to, I mean, Bock was one of those styles that came back a bit in the very early American craft beer revolution. Like you've got Dead Guy Ale, which I think is a Doppelbock, and back in the days when breweries, they'd have 20 taps and they'd have 20 different styles on there before we all became obsessed with IPA. Bock was often up there, as was ESB, which is essentially an English bock, like about 5.5-6% amber ale. So maybe there will be time for it. We'll just have to convince a lot of people that dark ale's fine, and also that 6% is fine too. Which is, I'm not sure I should be going out and saying that, but it's done us all right, Brad, drinking a lot of 6%.
Oh yeah, so. There's nothing wrong with us, right?
No, nothing at all.
Yeah,
nothing at all.
Fact checking Santa just told me that a schooner is a type of sailing vessel defined by its rig, fore and aft rigged, on all of 2 or more masts, and in the case of a 2-masted schooner, the foremost generally being shorter than the main mast. There you go. So it's a 2-mast with a short one at the front. That's it.
And that's a schooner. There we go. Thanks, Internet / Brad Santa. That's all we've got time for this week. Just some quick announcements. Firstly, an apology to people that bought the Unity box for our next live show. We had to push that back for personal reasons, but we will be announcing a new date, and hopefully you've all been sorted with either where you get the money back. What's that called, Brad? Refund.
Refunds,
yeah. Or some delicious other beer, and we'll get that sorted ASAP. And then we do have a Donzoko live show that's in the works as well. So they are coming, but there has been just a bit of a break while I've been moving house and finishing the book. So that will be back, and we send our apologies. Next week's an exciting video, and then we will get back into the homebrewing, hopefully a couple of weeks later, with Grainfather. I've recorded an interview with one of the world's greatest brewers who we're collaborating with on this one, and all will be revealed soon.
Oh, you tease.
I'm such a tease. I know. I couldn't resist finishing with that. So yeah, thanks for tuning in as always, and we will see you on Wednesday for the next video and Friday for the next pod. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.